Donald Trump has turned his fire on one of his most loyal MAGA foot soldiers, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Watch this.
Whack. All the way.
Donald Trump has turned his fire on one of his most loyal MAGA foot soldiers, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Watch this.
I passed a great big beautiful bill, which is the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country. So when somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now catering to the other side, I don't know what remark, but she's got some backyard, but I'm surprised at her. But when somebody
She
like
just
Marjorie
isn't
goes
a
over
puppet, bro.
and
Keep it a buck. Keep it a bean. Keep it a rat, a mill, a bill, a C note. She just isn't a simp.
Marjorie Taylor Greene stood by him through.
DJT, stop. Cease. Cease the mendacity, bro. Logic isn't catering to the other team, bro.
Marjorie Taylor Greene stood by him through the impeachment.
Starts making statements like that, show, but I'm surprised at her. But when somebody like
he thought MTG was going to be a simp forever.
But when somebody like Marjorie goes
she said, nope. If something is truly terrible, I will check it, condemn it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if my party looks bad. The reality is the reality, bro. Logic is logic.
She is MAGA, and now he's calling her.
The Greene who's now catering to the other side. I don't know what. She's got some kind of an act on, but I'm surprised at her. But when somebody like Marjorie goes over and starts making statements like that, it shows she doesn't know.
This is
Marjorie
crazy.
Greene stood by him through the impeachments. Through January 6th, through the rallies.
Everything. The slander, the smear campaigns, the attempted assassinations, everything.
Why? Because she dared to say what million rallies through the whole movement. She is MAGA. The impeachments through January 6th, through the rallies,
the lawfare,
through the whole movement. She is MAGA, and now he's calling her a sellout.
She's just she's just
why? Because she dared
balanced,
to say what millions
fair,
of Americans
reasonable
are thinking right now. The other side. Why? Because she dared to say rallies through the whole movement. She is MAGA, and now he's calling her a sellout, catering to the other side.
Because she's not simping.
Why? Because she
that is the reason.
Rallies through the whole movement.
Is unhappy with MTG.
And now he's calling her a sellout, catering to the other side. Why? Because she dared to say what millions of Americans are
bravely,
thinking
intrepidly
right now.
said,
America First
balanced-ish, logical-ish.
Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently? America First agenda doesn't look so America First anymore. Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently?
My critique is not being focused on America First, but I largely blame that on our Congress because I serve in the House. I also blame that on who's advising him in the White House. You know, keeping him on nonstop tours around the world and nonstop meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not America First. It's just not.
Yo, she's cooking. MTG is cooking.
Issue that the president and the Republican-controlled House and Senate are working on, and that showed up in the election on Tuesday.
As the president, does he get some responsibility for that?
Well, of course. I mean, are working on should be the most important.
MTG is no wokey, bro. She's just logical.
Meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not America First.
Based.
It's just not.
Based.
I think domestic policy should be the most important.
Of the highest importance.
That the president
Domestic
and the Republican-controlled House and
domestic
Senate are working on,
should
and that
be
showed up
of
in
the
election.
highest importance.
Get some responsibility for that?
Well, are working on, and that showed up in the election on Tuesday. Should be the most important issue that the president and the Republican-controlled House and Senate are working on, and that showed up in the election on Tuesday.
As the president, does he get
should be the most important and nonstop meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not America first. It's just not. I think domestic policy should be the most important issue that the president and the Republican-controlled House and Senate are working on, and that showed up in the election on
But as
Tuesday.
the president, does he get some responsibility for that?
Well, of course. I mean, every president is responsible for the way that they lead, but they're also should be the most important issue that the president
Trump,
and
he's
the
bugging.
Republican-controlled
A lot of
House and
Republican
Senate
politicians,
are working on, and that showed up
a
in the
lot of
election on Tuesday.
Republican politicians are
Well,
bugging.
of course. I mean, every president is.
They're focused on the wrong
Is
things. That
America
this is
first.
the reason
It's just
the
not.
people
I
on
think
the
domestic
Democratic
policy should be the most
team,
important
like
issue,
Zoran, won in
that the
NYC,
president and
won
the
the
Republican-controlled
mayoral
House and Senate
election
are
in
working on, and
NYC,
that
bro.
showed up in the election on
But as
Tuesday.
the president, does he get some responsibility?
Should be the most
They focus
important
on
issue,
goofy-ish,
that the
low
president
vibrational-ish.
and the Republican-controlled
People's
House and
religion,
Senate
people's
are
faith,
working
people's
on, and that showed up in the election
meant
on
to
Tuesday.
say people's religions, people's
Well, of course.
faiths,
I mean, every
people's
president is
faiths,
responsible
people's
for the way that they lead, but they're also in a
immutable
silo of
traits,
information.
people's
And,
races,
I think that's why
RACES.
after the election on Tuesday
crazy.
are working on, and
Crazy.
that showed up in the election on
But as
Tuesday.
the president, does he get some responsibility for that?
Well, of course. I mean, every president is responsible for the way that they lead, but they're also in a silo of information.
A bubble, a box,
responsible,
a cage,
for the way that they lead, but they're
an
also
echo chamber.
Ability for that?
well, of course. I mean, every president is responsible for the way that they lead, but they're also in a silo of information. And I think that's why after the election on Tuesday, you saw President Trump come out and react differently, probably because they couldn't keep him siloed. And here's the polls, sir, and this is what people are saying. I think he saw for himself, and he's reacted.
It's very
Okay, she's right. I mean, she's calling out the shift, the mission creep. Trump's White House calendar looks like a foreign policy tour, not a presidency focused on working Americans. We're
Crazy.
building new bases in
Terrible.
Israel now.
Terrible.
They're floating that idea. Also plans to, buy Greenland were on the table for a while, threatening Canada.
Yep. Panama, different places.
State. And now reportedly blowing
Striking
up boats in Venezuela,
Yemen, yep,
all while
with no
Americans are
proof
working
of
two jobs to afford groceries. This isn't
narco
America
terrorism.
first, it's
with no evidence of drug smuggling. There was no evidence. They just blew up boats. There was one boat of 11 people. Those, bro, they showed no evidence to substantiate the claim that these people were narco terrorists. They just blew the boat up. No due process, no trial. They just deleted these people with no evidence. They violated international law. Blowing people up with no evidence or blowing people up before due process or a trial is a violation of international law. Extrajudicial killing. Extrajudicial killing is a violation of international law, bro. If you do this, you are a war criminal. It is what it is.
we're building new bases in Israel now. They're floating that idea.
Ron Paul was
Also
correct
plans
when he
to,
said
buy
it is a
Greenland.
war
Were on the table
crime
for a while,
to
threatening
do this.
Canada with a takeover, making them the 51st state. We're on the table for a while, threatening Canada with a takeover, making them the 51st state. And now reportedly blowing up boats in Venezuela, all while Americans are working 2 jobs to afford
3.
groceries. This
Some
isn't
people 3.
America first, it's empire first, and Marjorie keeps calling that out.
Yep,
The
bravely.
president says there's virtually no inflation and that grocery prices
Crazy.
are going down. Do you agree with
Manipulative,
that?
mendacious.
No.
Hogwash.
I go to the grocery store myself. Grocery prices remain high. Energy prices are high. My
Yep,
electricity
the cost
bills are
of
higher
living
here
is
in
high, bro.
Washington, D.C. at my apartment and they're
Stuff
also
is
higher at my
exorbitant.
house in Georgia, higher than they were a year ago. So affordability is a problem.
Yep.
And I'm a mom. My kids are 23,
She's rooted
26,
in
and
reality,
28.
so salute.
That's the generation I worry about the most, and they're having a very hard time. But when I go back home and
This doesn't make her woke or a Democratic shield or a minion or a toady of the Democratic Party. She is just logical.
Maxing out their credit cards just to afford their
Yeah,
monthly
she's
expenses.
speaking.
So when the president says
She's
that it's not that
discussing
affordability hasn't
this
been fixed,
issue
it's
with
that people,
Caitlin
Republicans
Collins.
weren't talking about it enough. That seemed to be a takeaway of this from Tuesday night's elections. You disagree with that sentiment?
I think Tuesday was definitely a referendum on how leaders in this country are leading. And I believe in America First policies. That's why I campaigned for President Trump and have supported him as long as I have, and I do support him. But I want all of my colleagues to come through in action in supporting America First policies. And I think the American people showed that on Tuesday. You're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by bailing out Argentina. And you're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by continuing to fund foreign wars and foreign countries and foreign causes. You're going to get them to go to the polls and vote when you show up to work and actually fix the problems that they
get
face
things
every
done.
single day.
Exactly.
This is
you don't need a PhD
the way
in
people
economics to see it, right?
people
Food
can
prices are up
take you
4%,
seriously
utilities are higher,
as a
rents are through the
public
roof.
servant.
Meanwhile, Trump's saying there's no inflation, and then he
Hogwash.
goes and tells Americans to take out 50-year mortgages and 15-year car loans. Let that sink in. The builder president is now basically saying, you can't afford the
Hypocrisy,
American dream, so
contradiction.
let's just stretch it out for half a century.
This is sucky,
that's
bro.
Not bold economic policy,
Fecal.
That's desperation. And Margaret's
Hateable,
the only one
odious.
to actually say it. She's
Yep.
been criticizing
She's one of
both
the
sides.
very
They
few
say,
Republicans
look,
who
she's turned on Republicans.
have
She has
a
been
spine,
criticizing both sides
a
from
backbone.
the very beginning.
Here's something you all may not know about me. I think a lot of people
Yeah,
on the
she
left are
appeared
learning
on
that
The View
when I ran
too.
for Congress in 2020, I ran criticizing Republicans and Democrats equally because I come from a working class family, ran a construction company for over 20 years, and I feel like the government has failed all of us.
Yep.
And it purely disgusts me. It
The
really
voters
does. And
of all
I
parties.
represent a district that is rural manufacturing district,
The
blue-collar
duopoly
workers.
is
And
messed
people
up.
have been crushed by decades of
Effed
failure
up.
in Washington, D.C. And
There's
so I have no problem
so many
pointing
people are
fingers at
corrupted,
everyone. And
cucked,
the worst thing
compromised, all of
I
these
just can't
things.
get over is we're not working right now. And
Craven.
I put that criticism directly on the Speaker of the House.
Johnson,
And
yep.
we should be
Johnson.
all the people sitting in this audience, they go to work every day. People at home watching this show, they go to work every day. Ladies, you go to work every day. The people on your set, and it is an embarrassment to me.
It really is. I agree.
I'm
Wholeheartedly.
not taking a paycheck.
Wholeheartedly.
I'm not taking
Wholeheartedly, I agree with MTG. That it is
what
embarrassing.
That sounded like 2016 Trump,
Yep.
the outsider.
The
guy who said, "This is
non-traditional
Williams, the
person.
politicians have sold us
The
out. American
unconventional
workers been
person.
forgotten." That's what built the MAGA movement in
Yep.
the first
He
place.
earned.
And now Trump is
He got
attacking
people to
that
trust him.
message,
Now
calling it
the
catering to the
trust
other
eroded.
side. That's not the movement changing Washington.
Nope.
That's Washington changing the movement. And the
Kim,
result,
she's cooking.
the dollar's weaker than
Yep.
it's been in
The
years.
purchasing power,
Prices are
yes.
up, savings are down,
Yep.
and now people are being told they need 50-year mortgages and 15-year car loans just to survive.
Stuff is in
You know,
ruins.
This is what happens when our
Broken.
political class spends years fighting each other instead of fixing the
The
economy.
issues.
So where do you even put your money anymore? The markets are chaotic. Washington
Yeah.
is chaotic.
Yeah. Let me know what y'all think. If y'all rock with this commentary video, like, comment, share, sub. Trying to grow this channel. Let's get to the 100K sub plaque before this year is over. Yeah, bro. Logic is logic. It is what it is. If you are averse to logic, that is your problem.